Hey there, Squirrel Army! How's it going? For this one, we are doing another one of the sub-commanders from the Caves of Ixalan commander. This is Carmen, Cruel Skymarcher.
You can join the Squirrel Army by subscribing.
Alright, so 5 mana, 2/2. That doesn't seem very good. Flyer, okay, alright. Maybe we've got something here. When a player sacrifices a permanent, we put a +1/+1 counter on this thing and we gain a life. So we want to be aristocrats. Like, there's a lot of Orzhov aristocrats already, so I guess this can add a Voltron element. When it attacks, we can return one permanent card with mana value less than or equal to this is power from our graveyard to the battlefield. So, yeah, like, we're looping a lot of things in and out of our graveyard and getting all kinds of value, and we can ping people with our usual, like, aristocrats sort of style of stuff. Yeah, I don't think, like, there are a couple of things like, Grave Pact and Dictator Erebos, even Martyr's Bond and things like that make our opponents have to sacrifice things when our stuff dies. There's also a bunch of those like zombies and whatnot that when they ETB, each opponent has to sacrifice a thing. So like I think we want to be controlling, like, I always think this, but we want to be controlling the impetus of us sacrificing things for the most part. We don't want to rely on our opponents sacrificing things. Like, this can be a really cool, or could be a really cool thing against people who are playing lots of treasures and things like that, but obviously it's not, like, competitively viable, I don't think, but whatever. I don't care about that. That's not my, wheelhouse here. We're very casual here, so anyone who's CDH, whatever, they can figure it out for themselves and be like, yeah, no, this definitely isn't it, Chief, or whatever. But still, we're here for it, and we'll figure out, like, some stuff to do with it. So, again, like, I think we want a lot of haste enablers here, especially, and we probably want to protect our commander, because I think, like, this is not just an aristocrats deck where we're gonna get, like, we will have some of that stuff, but that's not specifically exactly, like, how we're winning, per se, I don't think. Maybe it's half and half. Maybe it is. I'm not too sure. But I don't think there's that many Orzhov, like, Voltron decks. I'm not too sure. But I'm not a huge fan of Voltron, but that's just me. But I think, like, having, like, the fact that you can do stuff with this, like, just to be like, if people are like, oh, well, I'm not, just being like, look, I'm not trying to actually kill people with my commander, just being like, dude, I just want to get my attack trigger off. You can block it, or you can kill it after I get my attack trigger. That's fine. I don't really care about that. Like Ozolith would actually be really good with this, actually. I just thought, damn, bro. There's only a few commanders that I actually think that Ozolith is actually really good for. This would, like, be one of them. Like, it's really weird because Ozolith only puts counters onto one thing, so you really want to just be Voltron, I think, with the Ozolith and things like that. So that's just me. I don't know. Yeah, as I said, I think we want to have a whole bunch of the sacking stuff in our deck. We don't mind if we have stuff that makes our opponents sacrifice stuff, but again, like, we don't want to sit there and be like, I hope my opponent sacrifices a thing, and then I'll get a counter and gain a life. Like, I don't know, that's not really that amazing. I don't know that you want to hone in on the gain life, because already, like, I feel like this is pulling in, like, one or two directions for the most part, but you could hone in on it gains you life, which obviously all white cards do, apparently that's all white can do, gain life and such, and black's all about the sacking stuff, so white has to add something. I guess white's actually adding the counters and gaining life, so yeah. But still, like, I don't know, like, I'm not sure how, like how much chance like you'll get with that, like especially when I say that's why I think you need haste, you need boots and greaves, because this thing is probably one of the most important things that's going to be on your board, and you don't want it to die, and you want it to come in and do its thing straight away when you're, you know, when you've played it. You don't like, so again, like, you probably don't want to play this thing until you've got like all your mana rocks and all your ramp kind of set up, so you kind of want your engine in your hand so you can dump your hand kind of thing when this comes onto the field and kind of get value from your graveyard, and then kind of, you know, do a whole bunch of damage all at once, and then, you know, like, hopefully, like, you've dealt enough damage to kind of, like, move on from there and gotten enough value from, you know, things like coming back from your graveyard, making your opponent sack stuff. Like, you can play some of that stuff, like some of those zombies and whatnot that make people sack stuff and things like that, as I sort of said, but, like, setting those as setup cards. Like, they're not going to do anything after that, and they can even go to the graveyard. We don't really care, because, again, our commander will bring them back eventually at some point. So, like, there are things like I'm sure there's combos that you could do with this, like, if you can get multiple attacks per turn or whatever and things like that. But I'm not too sure. Actually, like, things like that put more counters on this would be really good. So the thing, I can't remember its name, but you pay 3 life and you put 3 counters on your creature. That would be really good, because, again, like, you just, like, putting 3 counters on your thing, and you can just get anything pretty much back with it. So just anything that puts additional counters on your commander, even on equipment, like or whatever, or in enchantments. Like, Cathar's Crusade is one of my cards that I don't like very much, because it's so much book work to keep. But, like, if you're really just caring about this thing getting through or punching people for lots of damage for the most part, like, just track the counters that are on this thing for the most part, because, like, the counters that are going to be on the other stuff are going to be pretty irrelevant, so you don't really care, like, or you're just going to sack them anyway or whatever. So, or maybe it is defensive, I don't know, but still, like, this is the main thing. So you're just like, okay, maybe I'll keep a storm count of how many things have entered this turn, or whatever, I don't know. It's tough, because, again, like, things enter after one and another, so it's always a nuisance. So, but yeah, like, I don't know, like, there definitely are cards that would help this thing out there. I think I kind of halfway want Lurrus in this deck as well, because Lurrus is really good. There's a bunch of actually new cards that actually return stuff as well, from your graveyard. Not as good as what this thing does, I don't think, because, again, you can just, like, once you pump it up, it'll bring back more and more and more. So it can be really, really powerful in that regard. But you do have to be buffing it up. Actually, you can just buff it up. Like, it doesn't say how many counters are on this thing. So you can just, like, give it Colossal Hammer or something like that, and just be like, or whatever, what's the sword that gives your creature power equal to the number of lands you control, or something like that. Things like that. Like, there's just like, here's a huge buff, okay? Like, we don't really care. Like, here's just this huge buff. So you could, again, be like, fairly Voltron-y, and just be putting all these, like, Colossal Hammer or whatever things on it, and just being like, okay, cool, I'm going to sacrifice these things and put, you know, a bunch of counters on it, and I'm also going to pay a bunch of life. You know, actually, I almost feel like you need, like, to copy your commander to really get the best out of this. Like, if you're in red, obviously Kedis is a must if you're a Voltron deck, I think. unfortunately, there's nothing that I can think of. Maybe there's be something new eventually that they print that basically your commander deals its damage to each opponent in other colors, because that would be such a really good thing to do. Because if you hit one of your opponents or even knock one of your opponents out, yeah, you've hit one of your opponents down or you've hit one of your opponents out, and then you're kind of like, it's now two or three against you, because now you've done a whole bunch of stuff, done a whole bunch of damage, and people just gun you down. That's my hugest problem with Voltron, because it's just like, you either win and run away with the game, or you literally get stopped and never do anything. So having that backup plan of, well, I'm just going to do the aristocrat stuff or whatever, or maybe I'm got some life gain stuff that's here that sort of works with either Voltron or with like the aristocrats kind of stuff, then sure, like if it makes a token that I can sack or whatever, things like that, yeah. Those kinds of things, or puts counters on my commander or whatever, or things like that, or just like does that kind of thing, helps me out in a way, then maybe those are things that you might want to think about. Like, obviously, like the thing that says when you gain life, you draw a card might be alright as well, because again, like, it's sad that these colors don't really get very much good card draw. It's very weird, but whatever. Since you're also gaining life, you can also like pay a lot of life, so. But yeah, still, there is a few things, like some of those, like when you gain life, opponents lose life type things. Don't know how far deep you want to go into that, but it is right there on your commander, so it's like free real estate to an extent. But those are my thoughts thus far on this. Like, again, like somebody could have already come out with some broken combo with it, and I have no clue. So if you have, or if you've heard about the broken combos that are with this, you can let me know those down there in the comments below. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope you'll join me again in more.